Hi, this is Andre, and thanks for checking out Synthisophy. Synthisophy is scientifically integrating the wisdoms of history, based on fact and truth, into our present culture. Let's take a look today at Chapter 15, Theses 1, 2, and 3. Let's consider cognitive and confirmation bias, argumentative theory, tribal instinct, and the warrior ethos from the evolutionary perspective. Cognitive bias may have been established over mammalian evolution and becoming prominent in Australopithecus 4 million years ago. Homo habilis may have evolved one step further and then using confirmation bias, starting to function as a tribe. Homo erectus, upon leaving Africa 2 million years ago and settling all of Eurasia, may have done so with the tribe as the basic unit of survival. 70,000 years ago, perhaps with a newly developed warrior ethos on top of the tribal instinct, Homo sapiens left Africa and conquered the world. As mentioned in the mission statement, at this point in time we are a very polarized nation, which is the result of the advent of the 24/7 news cycle and social media and the internet. We have information at our fingertips. Such massive amounts of information make it very easy and almost necessary to apply a confirmation bias to select sources that confirm that bias. Confirmation bias is an evolutionary genetic human trait, which began with the hardwired cognitive bias neurologically developed in the brains of our ancient ancestors. We now have a neuroreality based on our hardwired cognitive biases, which we now project with confirmation bias that resulted in the argumentative state of mind, which is stoked by our tribal instinct and warrior ethos, which is now present in our society as evidenced by the polarization of our nation. Are we using confirmation bias when choosing what sources we get our political information from? Are we using confirmation bias when choosing a political candidate? Are we using argumentative theory when talking politics? Is that why political arguments can get so intense, so tribal, and sometimes lead to violence? Is this why we have a politically polarized society? The answer to all these questions could very well be yes. Which brings us to thesis number 1. Maybe if we become aware of our evolutionarily selective cognitive biases that resulted in our confirmation biases, which led to the argumentative state of mind and is fired up by our tribal and warrior ethos, all of which have caused our political polarization, maybe we can rein in these genetically selected and neurologically expressed human traits that have evolved over millions of years. Perhaps we could take a step back, try and detach ourselves from this genetic predisposition, and try to be a bit more rational rather than emotional in our political positions and discussions. Perhaps we could seek truth rather than argument. Perhaps we could listen and reduce the amount of polarization and vitriol present in our society. Can we as citizens overcome this predisposition and lead our democratic republic as the founders intended? Recall what Ben Franklin said after exiting the Constitutional Convention when asked what sort of government the delegates had created. His answer was, "We've given you a republic. Can you keep it?" With Synthisophy, the answer is, yes, we can. Recall the natural experiment of history that took place on Easter Island? As citizens in a democratic republic deciding the future of the United States, we should keep this natural experiment in mind when voting for our representatives in office to make sure they're leading the country in the right direction. If we are not knowledgeable citizens ourselves when exercising our right to vote in our democratic republic, we risk losing the role as the most powerful country in the world and, theoretically, in the long term, 50, 100, 500, 5,000 years, risk going in the direction of Easter Island. Now, I'm sure you heard the phrase, never talk about politics or religion. Well, we just talked about politics. Now it's time to talk about religion. Recall the discussion on science and religion? Which brings us to thesis number 2. Religion is an understanding of the real world based on scientific fact and truth, but believing in the existence of God to explain the unknowable with aspects of existing religion or faith of one's own choice, or accepting the unknowable as God. Science is the study of the real world based on fact and truth. Religion is a particular system of faith and worship. Perhaps we could live our lives based on fact and truth. Religions provide a powerful structure by which we can live our lives, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and many others. And there are many questions that science can answer, such as, when did time start? 14 billion years ago when our universe was born in the Big Bang? But what was there before that? When and how did time start? Or is there a start? Will time end? Or is there an end? What created all the matter in the universe? Matter is made of molecules. Molecules are made of atoms. Atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. But what are protons, neutrons, and electrons made of? What about energy in the universe? How did that happen? When did energy start? What will happen when all energy is spent? What created space, as in the space taken up by matter and all the vacuous space of the universe? These are questions that science cannot answer, and perhaps a place for religion to answer with faith. What is good? What is evil? What is right? What is wrong? What are morals? What makes a good society? These are questions that science may provide direction, but may not be able to fully answer. To go one step further, for those questions that science can answer, perhaps science can be part of a religion. And for those questions that science can't fully answer, faith and morality could be part of that religion. Let's call that religion. So science is the study and understanding of the real world based on fact and truth. But there are many questions that science cannot answer, and that is a place for religion to answer with faith. So perhaps for those questions that science can answer, science and scientific fact and truth could be part of a religion, keeping intact those critical aspects of a religion, such as a social institution that provides group cohesion, moral behavior, and raison d'etre. To go one step further, perhaps science and understanding of the world based on fact and truth could be part of your religion, with those questions that cannot be answered by science answered with a particular faith or your own faith, your religion. Which brings us to thesis number 3. Only we, the people, can synthesophize. Only we can create and integrate the wisdoms of history into our present culture. Now recall the conclusion of Chapter 8 on Bloom's taxonomy. Note that computers can process and correlate billions of bits of information per second, whereas the human brain, at the consciousness level, is very limited in that capacity. Also note that the human brain can integrate many pieces of related information and create a new and original idea, not just correlates. Looking at Bloom's taxonomy, computers can remember, understand, apply, analyze, even evaluate information. At the top of Bloom's taxonomy, only the human brain can create new and original ideas, integrating many pieces of information from a wide variety of historic sources, and come up with something completely new and, if possible, societal value. Restated, computers cannot and will not be able to synthesophize, integrate the wisdoms of history into present culture. Only we, the people, can do that.